Welcome back to the Lumiose Post, where we talk about all things Pokemon, and today we're going to be talking about some kind of dumb Paldean theories. Like, they're not dumb as in there's nothing there, but they certainly aren't concrete enough to get their own full fleshed out theory video. But joining me today to explain these 5 fun or dumb, whichever way you want to look at it, Paldean theories, is the theory master himself, Birdkeeper Toby. Now again, these theories are not going to be super concrete, certainly not as concrete as the video we did over on Toby's channel, which you should totally check out, by the way. But they are some where there are definitely some connections that definitely could point to something, you know, even if we're not right on the theory, perhaps we are on a right or even intended track. Toby, do you want to start us off?
Hey Pokemon Masters, hey Lumiose, and yeah, I love little short, like half theories like this that kind of just have enough evidence, but not really. Take our first one. Meowth. We all know Meowth, and we've seen a few new iterations of Meowth. In Alola, we got Alola Meowth, and of course in Galar, Galarian Meowth. So I was pretty confident that this was the beginning of a pattern, and that in Paldea, we would surely get a Paldean Meowth. Except we didn't. The first Pokemon in the Pokedex is a cat, it's Sprigatito, but no Paldean Meowth. And then I had a look at Floragato, and I just thought, it does look a little bit similar, doesn't it? I mean, maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but then Meowscarada, Meowth, both have meow in the name. Okay, maybe that's not enough for you, but when you start looking at the Pokedex entries, it starts to make a little bit more sense. Floragato has this little yo-yo weapon that is actually hard. It's like a solid material, much like the coin on Meowth's head. And on top of that, according to Pokedex entries, when it gets ready for battle, its fur gets pinpoint needle sharp, which could be a callback to the Galarian variant of Meowth. And again, that Meowscarada, Meowth, when you compare that to like how Berserker and Persian have a similar name, or Quagsire and Clodsire, Meowscarada, Meowth, I see it.
Interestingly enough, Sprigatito may not be our only starter who has kind of some weird connections to a previous Pokemon. We also have the Quaxley line. Quaxley is known to be from another region. It talks about how it migrated from another region, and even talks about in its evolutions how they dances from faraway regions. But we may have found what Pokemon, or what 2 Pokemon rather, Quaxley may be connected to. So first, we have Oricorio. Oricorio is a bird much like Quaxley, and it dances different kinds of dances, one of which, in its ballet style, I think is how you pronounce that, is a flamenco dance, something very similar to it at least. So this bird is found on, this species of Oricorio is found on the Ula Ula Island over in the Alola region, and also found on the Ula Ula Island is another duck Pokemon, Psyduck. Now, Psyduck is in Melee Garden, which is on one side of the region, while Oricorio is in the Ula Ula Meadow, which is on the other side of the island. But perhaps because, you know, Oricorio can fly and stuff, Psyduck did have some small interactions with Oricorio, and basically kind of learned to mimic this flamenco dancing. But, of course, because it's Psyduck, he didn't get it exactly right, and ended up coming up with more of a samba dancing. And this ultimately led to Psyduck basically branching off and becoming the Quaxley line, which would then migrate over to Paldea. This also makes sense because, like I said, not only is Psyduck a duck, and Quaxley is also a duck, but they are both water-type Pokemon, and Psyduck is found in Paldea as well, so, you know, so is Oricorio, so perhaps, you know, it's interesting that these 3 Pokemon are always connected, you know? And I really like the idea that biologically, Quaxley could be related to Psyduck, but its lineage could have never happened without the help of Oricorio.
Next up, we got the Crystal Onyx, and I can't not talk about the Crystal Onyx. It was my first Pokemon theory that I ever did on my channel, and I'm still mad to this day that it is not a regional variant, or if, at the very minimum, I thought they were going to do something with terastallizing. doesn't have to be a terrestrial form of Onyx, just like we know that terrestrial crystals affect the wildlife of Paldea. I mean, just take a look at Glimmet and Glamora. So I thought they might do something with Onyx, but then maybe they did. Maybe Earthworm is kind of like the Onyx of this region, maybe even closely related. And I know one's a rock snake and one's an earthworm, but there is such thing as an earthworm snake. I'm pretty sure there are species of snake they get misidentified as earthworms, or perhaps it's an earthworm species that gets misidentified as a snake. Anyway, that's besides the point. When you start to look at Earthworm and Steelix side by side, you can kind of see the parallels. They both got that kind of hinged jaw thing going on. There's the steel exterior, of course, of an Earthworm, and then, of course, Steelix is the steel evolution of Onyx with a metal coat exterior. And on the inside of a Steelix, I've always suspected there is some kind of crystal. That is what the crystal Onyx is. It's an Onyx that just hasn't eaten enough mud or then metals to turn into a Steelix. And that's why with Mega Steelix, we see that crystal structure kind of with its blue hue jetting out from underneath. And sure enough, inside Earthworm's shell, there's this kind of gooey substance that is also able to become hard at will, which is the, I guess it's like its tendrils that come out. What if this is some kind of form of like liquid crystal? I don't know if that's a real thing. I'm going to be totally honest, and that's why this theory is on this list, because there's just not quite enough there. But I do like the idea that underneath Earthworm's shell, underneath the steel, is a very gooey cousin of the crystal Onyx.
I think Earthworm is a Pokemon that people are really sleeping on, to be honest. I know that it's one that if it wasn't a Titan, I admit I would have probably forgotten, but I've been using it in battles, and I really, really love the thing. And another Pokemon that I think we are really sleeping on from this generation is Squawkabilly. And you may even go, what's Squawkabilly? Because seriously, I mean, I really... If it wasn't the Corviknight taxi of the game, I'd have no clue what this thing was. But yeah, Squawkabilly is indeed a thing, and it might be a descendant of Chatot. So if you look at Squawkabilly, there are 4 different colors of it: green, blue, white, and yellow. And if you look at a past Pokemon we have, that is Chatot, you'll see that it also has the colors of blue, white, yellow, and green implemented somewhere in its design. Furthermore, you have that black tuft on Squawkabilly's head, and you have a similar black music note on the top of Chatot's head. Also, it should be pointed out that these are both parrot Pokemon and are also both normal flying. So what I imagine is that Chatot eventually kind of started to get territorial in the Paldea region, and this led to there kind of being different gangs of Chatot that eventually over time started to just represent one color of Chatot each, you know, one being blue, one being yellow, one being white, and one being green. But I imagine that this is when it started to become Squawkabilly. This would explain why Squawkabilly is much more kind of fierce than Chatot and is much more territorial. It even talks about how these different forms of Squawkabilly are always fighting against each other, and it isn't too crazy to believe what with the similarities I already mentioned to Chatot, as well as the fact that they are all kind of music related, with them all being able to learn different sound moves. And there is the fact that if we look at real world geography for a moment, we can assume that Paldea is pretty close to Kalos, as France, which is what Kalos is based off of, borders Spain, which is what Paldea is based off of in the real world. And Chatot is found in the Kalos Pokedex, so perhaps this is Chatot that have migrated from the Kalos region, and then, of course, over time, you know, it's not really domesticated anymore, it's having to compete a little bit more, and that's when you start to see the transition into Squawkabilly. And before I pass this back to Toby, we actually do have a honorable mention that we'd like to talk about, and that is with Rev of Room. So the interesting thing about Rev of Room is that it is a steel poison type, and it's described as a poison type that has possessed some kind of machinery, but the word possession here really makes me think, oh, is it a ghost type? But it's not, it's steel poison. And then there's the fact that it grabs rocks to be able to get around, so then should it not be part rock type? But it isn't, it's steel poison. So all of this is just really, really weird. And then the act of possessing something to make it come to life really reminded me of Rotom. Then you look further into Rev of Room and its role in the game. You have Team Star using these Rev of Room to kind of enhance their Starmobiles, and they end up becoming the Starmobiles, the Rev of Room do. So they even get their own like exclusive moves when they possess the Starmobile, similar to how when Rotom possesses different equipment, he'll learn different moves, you know, Hydro Pump, Blizzard, Overheat, etc, etc. So perhaps this Pokemon that is possessed Rev of Room is somehow related to Rotom, maybe even it's some kind of poison offshoot of Rotom or a variant that existed at some point. I don't know. The similarities between these two are just really, really strange, and it definitely makes me think that if Rev of Room isn't some type of Rotom, it probably is related to it.
For this last one, we got to talk about Dashbun. Now, Dashbun is an adorable Pokemon. Doesn't it look tasty? According to its Pokédex entries, it's a Pokemon that farmers have to protect. But protect it from what? Other predator Pokemon? Our theory is simple and straightforward. It's not protecting it from Pokemon. It's protecting it from people, because these Pokemon are delicious. They constantly talk about how good they smell. A similar relative Pokemon like Swirlix also said to smell very, very good. And we know eating Pokemon is a thing. Like, there's plenty of Pokédex entries that talk about how delicious Pokemon are. You think people wouldn't eat Fido and Dashbun? They absolutely would. But farmers have to protect them. It's the whole give a person a fish they'll eat for a day, teach a person to fish they'll eat for life. Dashbun and Fido have Pokédex entries talking about how their breath is really good for like baking goods and then also for protecting crops. These Pokemon help other foods grow. So eating Dashbun and Fido, as delicious as they look, as tasty as I'm sure they are, is a little bit short-sighted. But that's why the Pokédex entries say farmers have to protect them, because it's bad for business and also bad for Fido.
Thank you once again, Toby, for coming on to the channel and helping me discuss these fun 5 Paldean theories. 6, really, if you want to include that honorable mention about Rev of Room. It was a blast to have you. Be sure to check out Birdkeeper Toby's channel. If you're not already subscribed to Birdkeeper Toby, I mean, honestly, what are you doing? This guy has been like a pioneer in Pokemon theories on YouTube. You absolutely have to check him out. And a great video to start, if for some reason you haven't already seen his videos, is with the theory we did over on his channel. It's about the Ruinous Quartet and Paldea Wooper. That seems like 2 weird things to tie together, but trust me, it's a lot of fun, and it's really, really concrete in my opinion, much more than these theories we talked about today. Be sure to let us know in the comments below what you think of these theories. Do you have any kind of dumb theories that aren't super concrete, but it's kind of, I guess, a headcanon for you? Again, let us know in the comments below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss any future theory videos we do, as well as just, you know, all the different types of fun videos I make on this channel. And until next time, I will see all of you later.